These are 20 hidden facts about John Ford's 1957 film The Wings of Eagles that reveal it was far more than a simple biopic. Ford's deeply personal project starring John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara masked his own autobiography while honoring his paralyzed friend, featured genuine Navy artifacts on screen, and included Wayne's only intentional appearance without his famous toupee. The film tells the true story of Frank Spig Wead, a decorated naval aviator who became a Hollywood screenwriter after a devastating accident left him paralyzed at age 31. What most viewers never knew was how deeply personal this film was for everyone involved, and the extraordinary lengths they went to honor Wead's memory, the man behind the story. Understanding these hidden facts requires knowing who Frank Wead really was. Born October 24, 1895 in Peoria, Illinois, Wead graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy on May 29, 1916, then became a naval aviator on April 17, 1920, quickly establishing himself as one of the Navy's most daring pilots. Aviation records fell to Wead, who captained the U.S. team at the 1923 Schneider Trophy race and commanded Fighter Squadron VF-2. His career had reached its absolute peak when tragedy struck on the night of April 13 through 14, 1926. That night in his Coronado, California home, Wead heard his daughter crying and rushed to help her in the darkness. The house was unfamiliar, just recently moved into, and not knowing the staircase layout, he fell headfirst. His fifth cervical vertebra fractured, causing irreparable spinal cord damage, and just like that, at 31 years old, one of America's finest aviators was permanently paralyzed. Wead refused to let that be the end. 2 agonizing years of rehabilitation led to his reinvention as a screenwriter, and he eventually earned 2 Academy Award nominations in 1939 for Test Pilot and The Citadel, wrote over 30 films, and became one of Hollywood's most respected writers before dying at age 52 on November 15, 1947. Fact number 1. John Wayne removed his hairpiece for the first and only time. The Wings of Eagles is the only film in John Wayne's entire career where he intentionally appeared without his hairpiece, and this fact will shock anyone who grew up watching Duke on screen. Wayne had worn a hairpiece since the 1940s to hide his thinning hair, but for this film he made an exception. The reason came down to respect and obligation. Wayne felt he had an obligation to play Frank Wead with honesty and dignity, because he had personally known the real Spig Wead before his 1947 death. And to show the aging, paralyzed Wead authentically, Wayne removed his hairpiece for those scenes. His commitment to honoring his friend's memory meant more than vanity. Fact number 2. Ward Bond's character John Dodge was actually John Ford himself. John Ford pulled off one of cinema's cleverest inside jokes by inserting himself into his own film. Ward Bond's character John Dodge wasn't just any director friend, but Ford himself, hidden behind an automobile brand pun, because John Dodge parallels John Ford. Bond delivered what contemporaries called an emphatic impression of the director, and Ford went all in on authenticity by giving Bond his actual personal possessions to use on screen. Ford's real pipe, Ford's actual hat, and Ford's hollow cane that he famously used for smuggling booze all appear in the film, and if you look carefully at the office scenes, those are Ford's genuine Oscar statuettes visible on the shelves. Fact number 3. Ford's revealing quote about the project. John Ford's relationship with this material was complicated, and he didn't hide it when he famously stated, "I didn't want to do that picture because Spig was a great pal of mine, but I didn't want anybody else to make it." Those 24 words tell you everything about Ford's conflicted feelings. Grief over his friend's death tore against the desire to control how Spig's story was told, creating a tension where he couldn't bear to make it but also couldn't bear to let anyone else do it. That internal conflict bleeds through every frame of the film. Fact number 4. The film contains an Easter egg of Wayne's earliest headshot. Ford loved planting little jokes in his films, and The Wings of Eagles contains a beauty that most viewers missed entirely. Wayne pauses for a beat in front of one of his own earliest Hollywood headshots hanging on the wall during the scene where Spig Wead gets hired as a screenwriter and walks through the studio, then continues walking. Pure Ford. This subtle moment serves as a little wink to those paying attention, acknowledging Wayne's own long journey through Hollywood while he portrayed Wead's similar trajectory. Fact number 5. Real World War II footage and Helldivers clips appear in the film. Ford didn't just dramatize history, but incorporated actual pieces of it. Genuine World War II combat footage weaves through the movie alongside scenes from Helldivers, a 1931 film that the real Frank Wead actually wrote. The screening room scene features Ward Bond's character asking about that kid with Beery, referring to a very young Clark Gable, whom he calls that new young actor with the big ears. This wonderful moment connects Wead's real screenwriting career to the fictionalized version on screen. Fact number 6. The spectacular stunts actually happened. When you watch the wilder moments in The Wings of Eagles, you might think Ford exaggerated for dramatic effect. But as Ford himself verified, everything in the picture was true. The fight in the club, throwing the cake, actually happened. I can verify that as an eyewitness. I ducked it. Even the scene where a plane lands in a swimming pool, right in the middle of the Admiral's tea party, really happened too. Ford didn't need to embellish Wead's life because the truth was already stranger and more entertaining than fiction. Fact number 7. Real Navy personnel played extras, and Ford fought to pay them. Most of the extras in the Pensacola scenes weren't professional actors, but actual Navy flight students and flight instructors. Ford insisted on using real military men to maintain authenticity, but Navy regulations complicated matters when it came to paying servicemen for film work. Fighting those regulations, Ford insisted the military men be paid extra wages rather than work for free. His integrity and commitment to treating people fairly meant more than taking the easier, cheaper path of exploiting their participation. Fact number 8. Technical advisors actually served with Wead and appear in the film. John Dale Price and Dr. John Kai weren't just names from Wead's past, but real people who served alongside him in the Navy. Both men served as technical advisors on the production while simultaneously having their historical selves portrayed on screen, with Price played by Ken Curtis and Dr. Kai by Louis-Jean Hyde. Imagine watching actors portray you in a film about your friend while you're standing right there making sure they get it right. The experience must have been surreal for these men. Fact number 9. Wead's children forced cuts of alcoholism scenes. Not everything about the production went smoothly when Wead's daughters protested the depiction of their mother's drinking. Scenes showing Maureen O'Hara's character as an alcoholic were cut at the family's insistence. Even with those cuts, subtle hints remain in the film about alcohol's role in the marriage's disintegration, serving as a reminder that biographical films often face pressure from families who want to control how their loved ones are remembered. If you're discovering facts about classic films you never knew existed, make sure to subscribe to this channel because we dig deeper into Hollywood history than anyone else. Fact number 10. Wead exchanged flight controls by climbing outside the aircraft. During his 1924 record-setting endurance flights with John Dale Price, Wead set Class C seaplane records for distance at 994.19 miles and duration at 14 hours and 53 minutes. The part that sounds impossible comes next. To exchange controls during these flights, the pilots had to physically climb out of the aircraft and slide along the hull on a small rail, both pilots occupying the same seat simultaneously as they switched positions. Thousands of feet in the air, on the outside of a moving aircraft required a level of courage and skill that's almost incomprehensible by today's standards. Fact number 11. Ford's grandson claims the film is Ford's secret autobiography. Dan Ford, John Ford's grandson, made a fascinating claim about The Wings of Eagles when he contends the film was actually Ford's veiled autobiography. Both men were restless visionaries disposed to lives of action, who neglected their families for their careers. Both served in World War II as observers rather than combatants, and both preferred masculine companionship to that of women. Watching the film through this lens transforms its meaning entirely. Ford wasn't just memorializing his friend, but examining his own life, his own choices, his own regrets, and every scene about Wead's obsession with his career at the expense of his family was Ford confronting his own demons. Fact number 12. Ford was a decorated Navy Rear Admiral who filmed combat personally. Ford enlisted in the Navy Reserve in 1934 and personally filmed the Battle of Midway in June 1942. And here's what many people don't know about his service. Shrapnel wounded him while he shot footage on Sand Island, but he continued to film even as he bled. Academy Awards came for his documentaries The Battle of Midway in 1942 and December 7th in 1943. Retiring as Rear Admiral in 1951, Ford was promoted to Honorary Full Admiral by President Nixon at an AFI ceremony in March 1973, and his gravestone reads, Admiral John Ford. When Ford filmed scenes about military service, he wasn't playing pretend because he'd lived it. Fact number 13. Wead traded a $2,000 per week Hollywood salary for $460 per month Navy pay. Hours after Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the paralyzed Frank Wead called the Bureau of Aeronautics requesting recall to active duty. His disability didn't matter, Constant pain didn't matter because he wanted to serve his country again. When someone reminded him he was leaving $2,000 per week in Hollywood for $460 per month in Navy pay, Wead reportedly just snorted. It was a very eloquent snort. That moment perfectly captures the kind of man Wead was, where money meant nothing compared to duty and service. Fact number 14. The world premiere was held aboard an aircraft carrier. MGM didn't hold the premiere at a fancy theater in Hollywood, but aboard the USS Lexington on January 24, 1957. A limited New York premiere followed on January 31st, and a wide US release came on February 22, 1957. Holding the premiere on an actual aircraft carrier was the perfect tribute to both Wead's naval career and the subject matter of the film, honoring the military authenticity that Ford had worked so hard to maintain throughout production. Fact number 15. Wead's escort carrier advocacy was vindicated by history. According to Vice Admiral Calvin T. Durgan, Wead originated the plan to convert cruisers into light carriers, designated CVLs, and pushed for all 18 cruisers under construction to become carriers, not just 6. Durgan's words were clear. Spig was not satisfied. He wanted all 18 to be CVLs. The cruisers were not going to take a big part in the Pacific War, but carriers would. This was in 1940 to 1941. Spig, as we know now, was absolutely right. History proved Wead's strategic vision correct, and his advocacy for more carriers potentially saved countless lives and helped win the Pacific War, reminding us that his contributions extended far beyond aviation records and Hollywood screenplays. Fact number 16. The "I'm gonna move that toe" sequence was improvised and expanded. The most memorable scene in the film, where Dan Daly coaches Wayne through moving his toe during rehabilitation, was considerably elaborated beyond both script drafts. Daly played ukulele and sang the refrain as additions that weren't in the original screenplay. That improvisation created what many consider the emotional heart of the film, testifying to Ford's willingness to let his actors bring their own creativity to the material, and his recognition when something special was happening on set. Fact number 17. The production wrapped in just 47 days. Principal photography ran only from July 30th to September 15th, 1956, despite the film's epic scope, sweeping timeline, and complex aerial sequences. 47 shooting days, an incredibly tight schedule achieved through Ford's legendary efficient direction. Ford's reputation for shooting exactly what he needed and nothing more, never giving studios extra footage to re-edit his films in ways he didn't intend, allowed that discipline and vision to complete this ambitious project in under 2 months. Fact number 18. Robert Taylor was originally set to star. In August 1955, Robert Taylor was originally considered for the lead role, with Richard Thorpe set to direct, but the project shifted to Ford and Wayne by late 1955, after Ford expressed his desire to honor his late friend. Imagining anyone but Wayne in the role now seems impossible, and while Taylor was a fine actor, he didn't have Wayne's personal connection to Wade or his collaborative history with Ford. Fact number 19. Ford told Andy Devine at Ward Bond's funeral, "Now you're the biggest ass I know." Ward Bond worked with Ford on 26 films, more than almost any actor worked with a single director, and their friendship was deep and genuine, forged through decades of collaboration. When Bond died in November 1960, Ford's grief manifested through his characteristic dark humor. Walking up to Andy Devine at the funeral, Ford said, "Now you're the biggest ass I know." It sounds cruel, but anyone who knew Ford understood this was his way of expressing love and loss, unable to speak about his feelings directly, using insults as armor against his pain. Fact number 20. Wead's first child died at age 1, a tragedy rarely mentioned. Frank Wead's first child, Frank Wilbur Wead Jr., nicknamed Commodore Wead, was born February 6, 1919, and this is perhaps the most heartbreaking hidden fact. The baby died at approximately 1 year old from fever complications in February 1920, while Wead was a student aviator at Pensacola. This devastating loss preceded his paralysis by 6 years and profoundly shaped his character. And while the film doesn't mention this tragedy, it adds another layer of understanding to Wead's life, because he had already experienced profound loss before the accident that would define his later years. The film's reception and legacy. Audiences and critics responded to this deeply personal project with mixed reactions. Ruth Waterbury of the Los Angeles Examiner praised Wayne's transformation, writing, "The picture does a wonderful thing for John Wayne. It lets him get under the skin of a real part, The transition of a man, full of laughter and vitality, into a helpless cripple, is poignant and terrible, and Wayne conveys this poignancy. Arthur Knight of Saturday Review took the opposite view, criticizing the film with, "Not until this picture, however, could Hollywood be accused of cannibalizing, of making film capital out of film people." By the numbers, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer produced the film with a budget of $2,644,000, and it earned $3,650,000 worldwide, resulting in an $804,000 profit that was respectable but not spectacular. Running 110 minutes, the film was shot in Metrocolor with Perspecta stereo sound as Ford's 10th collaboration with Wayne, and Wayne's third of 5 films with Maureen O'Hara. Paul Vogel handled cinematography, and Jeff Alexander composed the music. Filming took place at Naval Air Station Pensacola in Florida for the early flying sequences, aboard the USS Philippine Sea off the Southern California coast for aircraft carrier scenes, and at MGM Studios in Culver City for interior and studio work. Historical inaccuracies. Even with all the technical advisors and Ford's commitment to authenticity, the film contains some historical inaccuracies worth noting. The USS Hornet's sinking is suggested to be from kamikaze hits in the film, but bombs, torpedoes, and Japanese destroyers actually sunk it, and the Schneider Cup race and Army flight chronology are shown out of order because the Navy won the Schneider race in 1923, while the Army circumnavigation happened in 1924. A red stripe visible in white bars on World War II aircraft insignia didn't actually exist during the war, and some 1950s Chevrolets and Pontiacs are visible in scenes supposedly set during World War II, but these are minor quibbles in a film that got so much right. The Wings of Eagles stands as one of John Ford's most personal and least appreciated films, telling the story of Frank Wead, while also telling the story of John Ford himself, through a meditation on ambition, sacrifice, friendship, and the cost of devotion to one's craft. The 20 hidden facts we've explored today reveal a film made with genuine love and respect, real Navy personnel, authentic military artifacts, improvised moments of emotional truth, and John Wayne's most vulnerable performance, combined with Ford giving us Ward Bond playing him, Wayne without his toupee, and a premiere aboard an aircraft carrier. Fighting to pay Navy extras fairly, incorporating his friend's actual screenwriting work into the film, and creating space for improvisation that produced the movie's most memorable scenes, all demonstrate Ford's dedication. Turner Classic Movies calls it one of Ford's most personal and least appreciated movies, and while it may not have the epic grandeur of The Searchers or the mythic power of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, it has something equally valuable in its raw honesty about what it means to dedicate your life to something greater than yourself, and the price that dedication extracts from the people who love you. Frank Wead traded a lucrative Hollywood career to return to Navy service at $460 a month, climbed outside moving aircraft thousands of feet in the air, and advocated for carrier strategies that helped win the Pacific War. Through it all, he never stopped creating, never stopped serving, never stopped pushing forward despite a broken body. John Ford made this film because no one else could, knowing Wead too well, loving him too much, and seeing too much of himself in his friend's story. The result is a flawed but deeply felt tribute to a remarkable American hero who refused to let paralysis define his life. If you enjoyed learning these 20 hidden facts about the Wings of Eagles, please hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your favorite John Wayne or John Ford memory, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into classic Hollywood history, because these stories deserve to be remembered, and your support helps keep them alive. The next time you watch The Wings of Eagles, look for Ward Bond holding Ford's real pipe, notice Wayne without his hairpiece, and remember that almost everyone you see in those Navy scenes actually served. The stunts really happened, the toe-wiggling scene was improvised, and the whole thing wrapped in just 47 days, showing you a director's veiled autobiography disguised as a biopic, a final tribute from one friend to another, and a meditation on what we sacrifice in pursuit of our dreams. That's what makes The Wings of Eagles special, not what's obvious on the surface, but what's hidden beneath.